so you're going to the North Shore.
It's not my way.
It's probably cheaper. Especially if you're gonna eat. I've heard it's quite expensive.
To the point where I was consuming a lot of their
Well,
time.
when they were in Bloomington,
wanted you out of there.
they camp right in the parking lot there at Met Stadium.
Yeah, we've,
And not much camping
That's wonderful.
opportunity
So,
downtown.
yeah, so I don't wonder.
Maple Grove, I think it is, and then just
Are they?
drive in.
Good. Okay, let's rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. I will call the meeting to order. Is there any changes to the agenda, Jeff?
Madam Chair, there are two items. One, I think you have a copy of. It's related to development RFP for the parcel that we withheld from the tax forfeited sale. We'll discuss that under Administrator. And then we've had a request from the Park Rapids Public Library for a temporary space while they're redoing some mechanical construction down at there. And we'll add that item for discussion as well.
Under administration?
Yep.
Okay, and so we'll add that prior to the closed session?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Approval for the agenda?
I'll move.
Tom moves,
I'll second.
Ed seconds. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Is there anything you want pulled from the consent agenda? All right, motion to approve?
So moved.
Ed
I'll
moves.
second.
Steve seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Mike, trying to come up for employee recognition? Well, you know what? I
Public
forgot
input.
public comment. Is there anybody here that wants to publicly comment on anything? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For employee recognition, highway, we have Paul Cermak, maintenance 2 is recognized for service from April 16th, 2001 to May 17th, 2024. In human services, we have Kelsey Firehammer, adult mental health initiative program coordinator, began the part-time position on April 22nd. Jennifer Johnson, child support officer, is recognized for 10 years of service on April 28th. And Grace Wagner, eligibility worker, began the full-time position on May 6th.
Welcome.
In property records, Zach Haskins, property analyst, began the full-time position on April 21st. And in the sheriff's office, James Card, deputy sheriff, is recognized for service from March 21st, 2016 to May 7th, 2024.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Welcome and thank you for the employees. Highway and survey?
Morning.
Morning.
Few items today. The first one is our annual roadside weed control maintenance project. We had 4 quotes that we accepted, and we're recommending to go with the low quote B&P weed control for $19,035.
Quick question. Is
Yes.
that higher than normal? Is it, we've had trouble getting weeds sprayed for a while.
That's actually lower.
Okay.
Yeah, and I called them, talked to the contractor purposely because I wanted to make sure they included the spray component, the chemical with their quote, and they assured me that they did, so.
So I know last summer I got quite a bit of calls on the spotted knapweed. Get pretty wild.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame that they promise to get the work done? Because I think part of it is they run out of, they get behind and then the weeds grow.
If I recall correctly, I don't have it in front of me, I believe it was June 30th.
Okay.
Nice to get it during the growing season and not late in the year.
I'll move to approve.
Okay,
Low quote.
I'll second.
okay. Dave and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay. The next item was previously snowplow chassis had been ordered. And with that comes the snow equipment. And we received a quote from Burt's Snowplow Equipment for installation of that. Their quote came in at $169,972 for the snow equipment on that truck. It is over with what we budgeted for the snow equipment. Very hard to predict that with inflation, but I talked to Christina, and there's additional funds in our capital outlay revenue that we can use for the overage on that.
So my question was, has it really gone up 35,000 in 6 months, 8 months, or was it just probably?
It has.
It has.
Yes. I previously quoted trucks, and in the 2 years in between the two quotes, it had gone up about $65,000. I don't know the reasoning. They're blaming a lot of different things right now in terms of staffing and steel and wars and still COVID, but it's kind of the card we're dealt with, the snow equipment. You gotta have it, and it's unfortunate of what's happening, but yeah.
What did we do with the funds this year that we didn't use for snow removal?
Well, they would have been budgeted on a 24 budget for the overtime. I'm sure there's still some in the budget for overtime. I'm sure there's some overage money, dollars sitting there. But my understanding is they're kind of in different pools of money, where at the end of the year, then we'd look at it and where the extra money is, and we could look at that too.
There's really not extra money. There's
Yeah.
budgeted overtime that we didn't use, and then there's salt and sand and materials and cutting edges that didn't get worn down, so we should have less expense going into 25. We should be able to
Right.
carry that inventory over. But we didn't really, I mean, we still had everybody working, and they
Right.
got a
Plus
lot of projects done during the course of the winter.
There's this winter coming, it could start snowing
Right.
in October, and we
Right.
might be working every day overtime. And so, yeah, there's 3 months. It's hard to budget on a split year like that, where it's 3 months, a good winter, it could be a terrible winter. Hopefully not, knock on wood, but could be.
But I've had a half dozen people ask me that question this year from the public related to, you saved all that money. Well, we did, but the next time it snows, we're gonna spend it, so.
Do you have a warehouse full of salt?
We do, we restock, we have to pre-order salt every year, so we order a certain tonnage, and we can go up over 20 or under 20% on those orders. So our shed's full right now, so we're ready for this winter, but I'm hoping for another really mild winter on my end, but.
I'll move to approve the low quote of Burt's.
I'll second.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so the next item was kind of an unexpected hanging heater in the north shop. Had a cracked heat exchanger, and it doesn't work anymore, so we got 2 quotes from local plumbing and heating guys out of Bemidji. The low quote was Dick's Plumbing and Heating for $4,799 to replace that unit in the north shop and pay out a building maintenance, just as a.
Didn't we just replace the heater in the north shop?
Water heaters.
Oh, that was water heaters, okay.
Yep.
I knew there was heaters involved.
How
And
many,
that-
how many heaters are in this building? I don't recall.
I believe it's 4.
I think
recall,
4
yeah.
and,
So this is 1 out of 4?
Yep.
Okay.
yep,
Probably the originals built 2006, I think, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the low quote.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item I have is that the highway department and then NRM has some surplus equipment that they'd like to sell via online auction. K-bid has been used in the past. There was a list of equipment attached to the agenda that we have. There's some pickups, miscellaneous tools, equipment. NRM had a pickup and some miscellaneous tools that we'll set up on the auction and get that sold and out of our lot sitting there. So just be approval to sell those items.
I'm assuming those dollars then go into your equipment fund?
Yeah, revenue, and my thought was that if we needed to use that for that overage on the snowplow equipment, that's a revenue that we could offset that $30,000+ right there too,
Thank you.
to use there.
I'm assuming most of these things are very well used.
Yeah, they've all kind of met their life expectancy of what we need, and what I've seen in reality is that you get a better deal doing this K-bid online auction. You get a better return value than you do if you trade it in or if you sell it by written bids. You know, advertise in the newspaper or something. You get a lot more money for what the equipment is.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Ken moves,
I'll second.
Steve seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is we had a bid letting for our CASA 6 projects that are going to happen this summer. It's SAP 029606009 and SAP 029606010. They're tied projects from County 15, just southeast of town here, to the county line. It'll be a full depth reclamation project and then resurfacing and shouldering. So in that one, we had 5 bidders on that, and the low bid was Anderson Brothers out of Brainerd, and they bid $2,099,930 on the project. Very good bid spread. I was happy to see that, and very happy with that bid. And this work would be expected to start, I think, late July is what they had planned. They have a lot of other work with MnDOT going on too, so.
I'll move to approve the low quote.
I'll second.
Steve seconds.
Where is this location, the repairs at?
It'd be from the intersection of County 15, just southeast of town here by I think it's electrical.
Yeah,
Tascamatrap.
Itasca.
And then down to the county line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the whole section there.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And the last agenda item I have is for a project, SAP 029624009, which is located in Mantrap Township. It's a box culvert replacement project. And this would be for the purchase of right-of-way on that project. There's a resolution for purchase of right-of-way. There's 4 parcels, 2 owners, or 2 parcel owners on that section.
Did either owner have a problem with the purchase of the right-of-way?
Excuse me, sorry.
Did either of the landowners have a problem?
We haven't
Yeah,
approached
we
anybody
haven't approached
yet.
it. This is just approval to purchase, and then we'll get the documents sent and we'll
Okay.
send them out to the landowners and,
They're very small parcels, a couple hundredths of an acre
yeah,
each.
very small and just around the box culvert ends is all we need.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not a linear, purchase at all.
I have a question about the parcels that you have listed in the resolution. They look, those parcels that I looked up, they were in Nevis Township on 119. Is there? Just wondering what's the story there?
Oh, yeah. I would have to look at the map and see. Got updated. These are actually in Mantrap Township. They're west of County State Highway 7 and east of the section corner of Section 7, yeah.
Yeah, I did a copy and paste.
I wonder if this is a
so I
typo.
wouldn't mess up on the number. And I came up with those being in Nevis Township on County 119.
We can double check on that.
Do you want to approve pending that they will double check on the parcel ID, or do you want to put it off till the next board meeting?
Is this something you need pretty quick?
Well, I guess, looking at this now, I think we should just bring it to the second board meeting. We can get all the other paperwork is ready, but I think this should be accurate.
Okay, so we'll table this.
They're
Go ahead.
they're in the wrong spot. These are not the right parcels.
Must have got copy and
I was just in
pasted
the
from
process
the
of
old.
looking it up myself.
Okay,
Okay.
Good
double
catch.
check on that one.
Yeah, it should map the right-of-way map, it should match the right-of-way map that we got
Great.
recorded just, the end of last week.
I even triple checked them. Did I do something wrong here?
Oh, he must have just got copy and pasted from the last.
Because this is supposed to be where? This is 24 at 7?
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
yeah,
those-
these are from 119, so I got a
Yep,
copy and
those are
pasted.
from the wrong project.
Yes, we
Okay,
can double
so
check
do we
that
have a
one.
motion to table?
I'll move.
Okay, Tom moves.
I'll
Jeff
second.
seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
So that was all the agenda items, and then if Jeff wants to give a.
I can do a quick construction update if anybody,
Yes, I do have a question too when you're done.
okay.
But before you start, does the board want this just put under the consent agenda, or do you want it under highway for next time?
I would be good for consent. I would
Okay.
double check the numbers again, but yeah, I'm good
Great.
for consent.
Okay, all right, all right, go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. Projects for 2024 are countywide, or our county gravel surfacing contract with DLL Excavating in the southern half of the county is scheduled to begin next Monday, the 13th, as well as our calcium chloride application work countywide with Envirotech Services is scheduled to begin next week, a little bit earlier than last year. Some of that got going 1st of June. Our project on County Road 13 over the Crow Wing River, the replacement of Bridge 29505 with Redstone Construction is, in my opinion, and I don't want to jinx anything, way ahead of schedule. I would look for that project to be pretty close to completion on around the 1st of June as opposed to after July 4th, which is nice. It's going real well. The deck is already cast. Their plans are to, the Gladen Construction, the subcontractor, is planning to begin approach road grading the end of this week already, so.
All
So
those
moving
using
right
the
along.
detour will be happy.
Yes, I think, yeah, the sooner that gets removed, the better for everybody, so. Couple projects that are carried over from last year, our work on County Road 7 from Dorset to County Road 40, that resurfacing contract with Anderson Brothers. We're just waiting for the grass to get growing here, and then we can remove the MPCA permit and final that contract out. And the same thing is true with the Nevis Township Bridge on Lake Beltane with Landwehr Construction. We're just waiting for the grass to start growing a little bit better out there, and then we can do a notice of termination on the MPCA permit. County Road 83 with Cass County. Of course, Cass County is the lead agency. They're in the process of right-of-way acquisition, I presume. Otherwise, what I've been told from their assistant engineer is their plans are to have a bid letting in July or thereabouts, so work gets going the end of July. That's the last information I'd had on that. Fair Avenue, that contract is still open, so the city's just got their end of MPCA permit and whatever work they've got left to finish, and then they can get back to us and we can final out that contract. And then the Akeley Trailhead with Linco Construction, they've got the balance of that work, probably about half of it to complete with some sidewalk and paving and ADA compliance issues and a kiosk to put up for the trailhead, so that's about it.
So your ag surfacing project, did they have stockpiles already in place, or
They're currently
currently producing?
crushing material, yes, that's correct, yes.
is that south of Akeley that they're
There's
crushing?
there's a pit south of Akeley they're working out of, and then there's a pit, I can't remember the name of it right now, which is south of Park Rapids on the west side of US Highway 71.
Okay, yeah.
And I've got a question. I had a couple of residents ask me about the work on Highway 44. Looking at the 5-year plan, the first 2 miles on the east side was scheduled to do in 2023. I told them that if I recalled correctly, there was some cost issues and then realigning the road. But if you know more or have more detail, if you could refresh my memory.
Well, as it stands right now, we do have a nearly complete grading plan. And of course, we have to revisit the 5-year road plan with the additional funding, federal funding for projects that Jed was able to acquire in the last couple years, it's moved everything around as far as scheduling goes. We've got, on 44, we do have right-of-way acquisition that will have to be dealt with when we get closer to that. And also, we have to kind of reformat the funding for that project. And there'll be a fair amount of tree clearing, which, when things get initiated, that will have to be completed prior to the 31st of March on any given year. So what I've told people when they've inquired about it is, yes, we're working on it, but it's been moved somewhat to the back burner. We've got acquired federal funding, for example, on our CASA 13, and that's for next year. So we have to be able to deliver that job, or we run the risk of losing that federal funding. It's, my gosh, it's well over $1 million. So, yeah, so things are kind of getting shuffled around, and unfortunately, 44 again is kind of moved to the side a little bit.
So it'd be safe to
Trying to-
say it's not this year.
It's not this year, no.
Okay. And I know, yeah, like the first, and this is actually in Steve Cairns' district, but it leads right into Schoolcraft Township, which is, of course, in my district, and that's the people that are asking me. Yeah, I know that first, what is after the first quarter mile, there's a couple of turns, and then there's if you're not on the road, you're down in the ditch. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know that there's some issues there that we're probably dealing with. And
The road definitely has some character. Yeah, we have to deal with that character.
yeah, that sounds like you're a politician. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do we have a tentative timeline for a new updated 5-year road plan meeting, or?
I would say sometime in June is when we could start, or not start, but start with the meetings and looking
Okay.
at looking at
Because
the.
I've been asked on several
Yeah,
occasions
there's
when
been
we're
a,
gonna have one.
like Jeff referenced, there's been a influx of this federal funds, and if you don't get your projects done, you lose it, and so it really does shift everything. I think we picked up 4 just this year of extra federal funds that they take your focus because of the extra permitting involved and the extra work that's involved with it, and but you don't want to give it up, you don't want to lose that money, so. But,
Historically, too, the 5-year road plan meetings have been typically the end of June. Usually 2 locations, one at the courthouse here and then one up north, and usually one of the town halls. I believe the last time our last 5-year road meeting a couple of years ago was held at Lake George Town Hall. So we'll probably want to go somewhere a little farther north, or a little more reaching in a different direction, so.
So at MRC yesterday, we had a discussion on the prevailing wage. Minnesota has a bill on that. With the federal dollars that you're receiving, those that are bidding, is that tied into prevailing wage?
Yep, all state and federal jobs have a prevailing wage on them,
That's what I
and,
thought.
yeah, it's just something that we have to do, according to those jobs.
Actually, you have 2 for federal jobs. You have your federal prevailing wage and your state
Yeah.
prevailing wage.
Yeah.
Whichever is higher is what the contractor has to
Yeah.
obligate themselves to.
Yeah. And that's more on the contractor, and that they have to make sure that they're complying to that and all the reporting that goes along with it. We do checks, we go and ask people, what are you making, just to make sure that they know that they're supposed to be making prevailing wage, but, the contractor is held responsible for all of the prevailing wage.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Cory?
Good morning. Got quite a bit on this agenda too. First thing, if you're ready, is the request to transfer 2 cabin leases to individuals. First is the transfer from Kenneth Wilson to Darby Diedrich Jr. and Darby Diedrich Jr., and that's cabin lease number 16. And then the second would be Daniel Ness would like to transfer lease number 28 to William Walker, Tammy Lee Glenn, Jordan Yelenimi, and Olivia Yelenimi. And I have no issues with this. I don't have issues with cabin leases as long as they respect the lands and other hunters and users. And I think it's a good deal. We make approximately a little over 25,000 a year off these, and that gets apportioned out to the district. So, just looking for approval for the transfer of these two leases.
Have they met all the policy requirements, and are they
Yep, everyone's.
requirements of the lease?
Yep. And once approved, we'll work with the recorder's office to get the names switched out and new leases signed.
Yeah, that's a thing to watch out for, because many of them haven't recorded the changes and things like that.
Yeah. Yep, we need to for sure get them changed. Or
How often do you check the parameters of the,
we usually check them once or twice a year, and a lot of times, like this year, I went up and visited a lot of the lessees during deer hunting season, which most of them are there during deer season. So everyone I met was very respectful and respect other hunters. And yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Steve moves,
Second.
Tom seconds. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
How many total leases are there?
We have 50. So in 2017, there was a document signed that it's $500 a year, and then every year 2% is added. So right now we're between $25,000 and $26,000 a year we're bringing in.
Is there a map available that person can go?
I can get one for you. We have a
where all
GIS.
these 50s are?
Yeah, yep. We have a GIS layer that shows all the different dots.
Yep, very good. Thank you.
I would like that too, Corey.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I can send that out. And,
Yeah, if you would send that out, that'd be great.
yep. It might look a little crowded, but I can even split it up in different districts because they're all over the county. So
I don't remember what year it was. We actually looked at the lease program and trying to make it more fair.
I remember that.
We just,
2019, I think it was.
was it 2019?
sure.
We didn't make really any changes.
And with the management plan that we'll be meeting here shortly in the next week, we'll be discussing cabin lease stuff there too. So yeah.
Very good.
Did we already get a motion to approve? Or?
We did.
Okay, sorry. Been up since 4 o'clock this morning, so. The next item is to approve a resolution to release the Benedict Lake parcel to the Minnesota DNR and classify as conservation land. So this is the parcel up by Benedict Lake that we are exchanging for the parcel at Heartland Park. The Heartland Park parcel is at legislation right now, and DNR has notified that it should be approved soon, and we'll get that process rolling where it'll be in the county's name. So just looking for approval to complete the resolution that I have attached there. And
So I believe the board already approved this. This is just to classify
they
as
need it
conservation?
classified as conservation.
By the county
Yep.
board, okay.
Yep.
Did you make you
If
made a
it's
motion?
already just, you need a motion? Okay, I move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
Steve seconds. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thanks. Next one is a item the Parks Department has been waiting for a little while here. They need to replace the 2009 John Deere mower zero turn that has ongoing issues. The mower has a lot of issues. The mower part of the mower, the cutter part, has many issues, and we're looking at getting the low quote from Up North Power Sports in Park Rapids to purchase a Toro Z Master 4000 commercial mower. This has 35 horsepower and a 72 inch deck. Meets all the specs we need. So that's the low quote at $17,829.14. And we're just looking for approval for that, and it's been budgeted for this year.
What's the current mower that you have?
It's the 2009 and a 2014.
I mean, is it a 72 inch?
Yeah,
deck?
yep. So
this
they had to
is-
meet the
It's
specs.
apples to apples?
Yep, exactly.
No, as far as like a bagger and everything that you have on there, it's not clear if they're the same. You know, one may be a 14 bushel, one might be a 10. Is there a difference at all as far as your department needs?
So I believe it's pretty much the exact same as the other mowers, the bushel size, and it's got the automatic dump. And it as Greg said, it meets over spec, so it's definitely what we need.
From Midwest Machinery, they have it listed as a 14 bushel.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
the other ones don't list it.
Yeah, they don't
That
list
was my only question, if it's
Okay.
apples to apples comparison or not.
Oh, on
Yep.
the bids,
I
yeah.
believe they're all pretty similar.
So would this be something that you'd be interested in putting on K-bid?
It would be, yeah, or possibly Deep Lake Park if Greg thinks it can run another few years. Because if we're only gonna get a small amount for it, we might as well.
Just get a replacement deck for it or something.
Yeah, yep.
Are all of these immediately accessible?
They are.
Within
Yep.
next week, they could be here to
Yep. And up.
towing season?
Yep.
They won't be back doubled in price?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
snow plow equipment?
So they are accessible, and
Okay.
up north's been really good to work with
Okay,
to
very good.
get that stuff.
A little bit of up north power sports.
I'll second.
Okay, Dave and Steve, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Okay. So at our Parks Board meeting the other night, we had Luann Herdloff come and talk to us about some history they're wanting to bring into Park Rapids. They're creating a history trail as part of the Park Rapids Arts and Culture Advisory Commission and Historical Society. Throughout the city of Park Rapids, they're going to put up signs at places of importance, historic importance. So they're asking us if they can put a small freestanding sign at Heartland Park and then possibly a plaque here at the courthouse describing some of the history. And they're working along with the city of Park Rapids on working with a grant from the Minnesota Historical Society, and they're hoping to get started here pretty quickly on the historic trail, they call it. And we need a resolution for them so they can work with this grant that they've received. And I just asked that the county administrator would approve the text, size, and location of the courthouse sign, and then the land commissioner approve the text, size, and location of the sign at Heartland Park.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. I think this is gonna be really interesting.
It is.
So I'm excited. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Around 22 of those.
Something like that, yeah. It's pretty neat. They showed me some of the text on some of their signs, and it's pretty cool that they found some of the history that I've lived here my whole life and I haven't heard a lot of that. So. I believe this is my last item. The county parks are in need of some surfacing, some certified wood surfacing. It hasn't been done since 2018, and there's getting to be some pretty deep divots around the swing sets and the slides and other parts of the parks. So we're just looking at resurfacing with that certified wood fiber, and it has been budgeted for this year, and I believe it'll make the parks stand out more and be more and we're asking that you approve the low quote from St. Croix Recreation for $7,850.
Corey, I noticed in their bid that they're at 360 cubic yards. One has 375 and 390, so I'm assuming the 360 cubic yards is gonna be plenty.
Yep, so we asked for 350, so anything over 350 was acceptable.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the low quote.
Ted moves,
I'll second.
Steve seconds.
And wants to remove the old stuff, huh?
They, yeah, I would think they'd remove the old stuff to get it out of there, cause, yeah, it's full of dirt and kind of getting rotten, so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Corey, I have one question. Excuse me, I gave your name out to somebody
Sure.
for disc golf. Have they contacted you yet?
There's been a few people that have,
Well,
at Deep Lake, or,
Yeah.
okay, sure, yeah, yep.
Because this person lives in Monaga and plays a lot of disc golf, and he said Hubbard County is ranking pretty low on the statewide map for disc golf.
Sure.
He was thinking that Deep Lake would be a great place
Yeah,
to
sure,
have a
yeah,
course. So, Tom, it'll probably come up for discussion.
yeah. I would think I've talked to another person that asked about the Deep Lake
Okay.
possibility too, and I said, yeah, we want it to be usable for all kinds of that kind of type of stuff, so.
Would my son have been that person? My son helped with the design of the Ferris Park.
Yep, and that's in process too right now, so that'll add another opportunity.
Well, this person said that there's grant dollars out there for
Okay.
disc golf, so.
Yeah, there's, once people get wind of something, they start showing me all kinds of grant opportunities, so there's mountain biking opportunities there for
Oh,
grants,
nice.
all kinds of
That'd be
stuff.
great
so.
too. Both of those
Yep.
would work well at Deep Lake.
Yep. Yeah. And just with all these quotes, we talked to the Parks Board and they approved of the low quotes also, so.
Follow up, Corey, and I stopped and saw you on that State 40. Have you heard anything else?
I did mention it to them and I said, we've gotten some complaints and,
Yeah.
they're actually going to talk to the Lake Association, I believe, so.
Okay, good.
Yep, they know about it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Did tree planting get completed?
It did. It got completed yesterday, so that was good. 127,000 trees in the ground. So.
Very good.
Just
Yep.
before the rain.
And yeah, good thing we got the moisture. That'll help too. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day.
Corey, you're up next. You're moving much better.
Yep.
All right, the only item I have is request approval to purchase 2 drones for our drone program. Earlier this year, we wrote a grant to Team Industries and was awarded a grant to cover the purchase of 2 drones. So I would like approval to purchase from Vertex Unmanned Solutions 2 drones for a total price of $13,964, and again, it'd be paid out of donations from Team Industries.
So you obviously are finding some real benefit in having some of these.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
For 2 of them, that's a pretty good price.
It is.
Really, for thermal.
Yeah, and they're thermal and get a lot of good uses out of them and very beneficial. You hope you don't truly need them, but we've used the initial one that we have, we've used it in a search already, and yeah, so they're there when you need them, so.
How many trained pilots do you have?
I think we have 3 now, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We moved 10 seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Jeff?
Madam Chair, since we have Bruce and his crew here, can we skip to 8B?
Absolutely. Yep.
That would bring you guys up.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
this off?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I will let you do it.
Sorry. Good morning. So, as is put on the agenda, one of the topics to discuss was, looking at what's being planned for the jail and law enforcement center and whatnot, and just kind of making sure that we're all on the same path and it makes the most sense, the options that's been proposed. And I think the primary discussion, Jeff, I'll just kind of cut to the chase of the information that was provided. I pulled it up on my computer. I could go through the finding of facts. So the recommendation was to review and discuss the project scope and approve the project, including beginning initial phases and bonding that would be needed, and I think you're working with Ellers on some of that.
So the primary issue is the change in scope that are under the alternatives. The January 1st number was 4.85 million for law enforcement and a total funding needs of 8.7 million. And the changes in scope include the additional 3,000 square feet for the law enforcement center garage, 550,000 for the dispatch because of the changes in design, and $800,000 for additional security in the jail pods from what was originally budgeted. And then $400,000 in scope changes relative to government center remodel. So in the long and in the short of that, the biggest piece is we went from 11,000 square foot of new construction for the law enforcement center Sallyport and garage to 14,000 square feet. That accommodates the full list of emergency response vehicle, seasonal vehicles, everything that the sheriff's office has relative to equipment, trailers, response vehicles. And the first one was an estimate. The 14,000 came from an actual inventory of the vehicles that Scott provided to Bruce and his team. The net result is if we bond for that amount, instead of the original amount, it's approximately $185,000 a year more than what we currently are, than what we were planning. The amount that we were planning on budgeting for was we're at $825,000 in annual debt service this year. We would have just rolled that straight into, the new debt would just roll right in and we'd have the same amount. So we're showing approximately a $1,015,000 debt service as opposed to an $825,000 debt service that we currently have for the 20-year period to cover the cost of this project. We looked at, we have alternatives, went to the meeting at the Fair Board to look at the rental of their site, and that site it's not heated, it doesn't have a floor, it's long-term, we would want our equipment to be in a conditioned space, and if we ended up having to build 3,000 square foot of storage someplace else, A, we'd have to find it someplace else, and then B, the cost of that would probably be only about $350,000 less than the proposed cost of the additional square footage at this point. So our recommendation continues to be to accept the project at the proposed scope as it was last reviewed with you. Like I said, we're at the point of committing funds. If we agree on a scope and decide to move forward, then the next thing we're going to ask is for permission to hire one of the construction managers that we've interviewed. You'll see that as the next thing on the item. And then we would be back here probably in June with Bruce Kimmel from Ellers taking the first steps in issuing the debt needed to carry this project out. So we're at that point now of moving this forward and getting this scheduled and building something. Is there anything else, Bruce? Is that?
No, I think that was.
So I think we're at the point of wanting to answer final questions you have about the project.
The one item that's not currently baked in the budget that hopefully we'll see some savings is material tax credit. The project should be able to accommodate and apply for material tax credit, which in a project, the jail portion, definitely the other portion we'd have to look at, but it could save a couple $100,000 overall.
Is that tied into the current legislation for the for the refund, or is that something totally separate?
It's separate. In 2014, the state passed a bond allowing counties and cities to not have to pay material taxes on projects. And so we've done a number of projects where we've taken that credit.
Okay.
But that doesn't require legislative action.
No.
Just
Simple
filling out,
application
filling out
process
the
or
correct forms, yep.
Exactly.
And I would assume bond rates are probably as, the way things are looking, might be as high as they're probably gonna go. So there is a chance that by the time we let the bonds, it might drop some.
Right now, the estimates from Ellers are still that, in discussing with them, that we had the ability to use some fund balance to offset the cost of this. Right now, they're saying that our return on investments is higher than the cost of issuing additional debt. So their recommendation is still to issue the full amount of debt for this and leave our money in fund balance to help pay some of that down. We should be at the point where, well, if you remember, 2 years ago, we were budgeting for about $400,000 worth of interest earnings, and we're well over $1.1 million now in interest earnings. So the interest earnings alone are going to carry that additional, and we still have the determination. There's two options for covering that additional debt service. One is to assign some of the interest earnings that we have towards that, and two is to allocate some of the capital funds that we've withheld for the last couple of years and just assign that to debt service and then reduce the amount that we have for annual operating capital. So there's two ways we can accomplish that. This additional $185,000 of debt service does not need to be added directly to the levy. It can be absorbed in other ways.
Yeah, that's just one of the thoughts I was having here, is allocating part of that 1.6 million in capital improvements each year, if some of that could go towards this instead.
That's correct. And we could allocate the overage of $185,000 from that amount, or we could allocate that from the interest earnings that we have. But one way or the other, it doesn't have to be a net add to the debt service.
So when we come talk about this in June, can you maybe have some projections of the
Yes.
use of that 1.6 million?
Yep.
Okay.
And we should actually have initial projections on the financial management plan, which will include all the models relative to all the revenue and expense sources for this. But yes, we will have that as we begin budgeting.
And I just want to speak a little bit here. I've had some people talk to me about this, both people in favor of it and some people opposed to it. And as I feel that we're a representative form of government, that I should speak for those people too. I know it was just not too many years ago that Shar and I was also one of those that was wanting to get the county out of debt. I don't like carrying debt myself on a personal level. But I think this train's going down the tracks, and I don't know if I want to throw myself in front of the train, and because I know I would get squashed. But I'm encouraged to, same thing that Tom had spoken and Jeff had just spoke, I was hoping that we could not try to increase our general levy in order to help pay for this. And then, I mean, when we started off at around 6 million, now it gets to 8, and then we add the government center here, now we're up over 10 million. It's, at some point, we gotta say when. And, but like I say, I'm encouraged to hear Jeff's comment, and that Tom has also got the same train of thought I was gonna say, if we could use some of that capital improvement money to help pay this down. So with that said.
The next steps after this would be, after approving a scope and approving a construction manager, as a construction manager would dig in, spend a few weeks on this, and then we would get right after it. But they would be responsible for identifying the actual budget relative to this. As Bruce indicated, we tried to be conservative with this, so we think that there's some opportunities. The majority of the government center remodel is stuff that we promised the attorney's office. You know, we've reduced the scope on the second floor pretty significantly from what we originally were looking at. And the additional scope in the jail pods to give us flexibility means that we're not building a new jail. And all of the indications working with Department of Corrections is that we're going to be able to staff the new facility with the same staff that we currently have, We've had several meetings about that and have commitments that what we're proposing is not gonna require additional staff, so that the operating costs of the jail should stay the same and, should be good for longer than the life of the debt.
Even if the amount of inmates increase to the new capacity, are we still able to cover that with current staff?
Our current FTEs, 2, 3 years ago, which we bumped up when we were running at 75, 80% of our staff, is the allowance that we currently have, and that number of FTEs should be sufficient moving forward. Now, when our population comes down, and we have some vacancies, we have a little pinch point, and we're not spending all that money. But as I understand it, the number of FTEs that we're budgeting for should cover the operation of the.
So the changes are gonna allow you to maximize the capacity of the jail. So if we're at 75 to 80% now, and we go to 100, you're telling me we have the staff to handle
We
that?
won't be able to go to 100, but instead of being at full capacity at 75 to 80%, we'll be at full capacity at 90%. So the additional 9 or 10 beds in use that we'll have the availability for should not change the staffing requirements.
And this will be a safer capacity with less liability, because we'll be able
Right.
to separate our challenge type of inmates into cells of their own rather than mixing them up, so.
Yeah, and I understand all that. I just don't want another, last couple of years where all of a sudden we got another $1 million because we had to staff up because now our jail,
I'm with you.
yeah.
I understand, yeah.
That would be a hard pill to swallow after going into debt.
I'm not interested in hiring more people either. I'm totally understand that.
The current number of FTEs, we believe, is going to continue to meet the needs of that facility to whatever capacity it's in.
And of course, now the construction, and everything will be in phases.
Yes.
But I'm assuming the bonding won't be in phases, it'll be all one big ball.
So, yeah, and Bruce Kimmel will speak more to that. Generally, what I can say is that we believe that the opportunity is to do that now. There's the possibility of earning some interest on those dollars until we actually need to spend them. But there are legal ways that you can do that or not do that. But if we issue the debt this year and start construction this year, we should have no issue relative to arbitrage. Is that what I'm thinking of, relative to earning interest on bond proceeds?
Think so.
I think so.
You're not right.
It's real.
I'm not the best when it comes to the bond stuff.
I know. And I've been a little under the weather too, so to pull that word out was useful. But Bruce Kimmel will be here and he'll explain those issues. But I do believe that we're going to be able to leverage some of those dollars to earn some money back.
And I know in the future, or in the past, Kay has come to us and had us refinance some of our debt at a better interest rate. So I'm assuming, even if it's 4 or 5 years down the road, hopefully, bonds and interest rates and everything will come down, and maybe we'll find more savings there again. But
So he's showing a coupon rate of 3.1% on his estimates right now.
okay, that's good.
I don't know that it's going to go lower than that. And our current interest earnings on most of our long-term investments is better than 4.5%.
Okay.
So, financially, I completely hear the idea of being debt-free for a public agency that really doesn't work well, because you could never save enough money. If we decided we were gonna take that money and set it aside for the next 5 years and do this 5 years from now, the cost will have gone up by more than we would have been able to set aside, right? Same as road projects, we have to do them when we can do them, because if we don't, they're going up faster than the interest we can earn on the money we would set aside for them. So there's always a balancing act with that.
You would have to dump some major assets in order to
Yep.
get ahead of that.
So unfortunately, it's a great scenario, and we're at the point, we started this 2 years ago because we're at the point of retiring debt and be able to bring some on and not have to hit the taxpayer levy relative to this. Now, the argument could be, well, we're not giving the discount that we could have if we just let it, didn't pay it. If we didn't have a car payment for the next 20 years, right, you could do something else with that money. If we didn't do a good portion of this, we could be in, we could be in the situation that many of our counties are in, where they're being found to be non-compliant in their jail, and then we would have to do something different. We all believe and are representing that this project will get us to the point that that facility is gonna be good for longer than the debt issued. Hopefully for quite a bit longer.
For at least as long as I'm a commissioner.
It'll be longer than that.
I agree with everything, as far as the law enforcement improvements, everything inside the government center, but I just cannot buy into this garage addition. I'm sorry, but that is a huge amount of money. I haven't seen any comparisons. If we take that garage off, add to the, Sallyport intake space, bump that wall out, construct a more economically priced garage somewhere else, I don't see why it has to be heated. Electric, yes, and in a different type of structure. Doesn't have to be concrete. It's expensive, yes, it lasts a long time, but I just can't buy into that. Unless somebody has a way to convince me otherwise, I just can't agree with that. And I think $975,000 for a remote garage, I think that price is extremely high. I think you would have local contractors who could build something for a third of that cost if we had the site to do it.
Well, there are three challenges. Is A, we don't have a site identified. B, we would lose the convenience of having things all together. But I agree with you that that additional 3,000 square feet is the biggest driver in this cost change relative to the scope.
I can't agree to this the way it is right now, that's all I'm saying. That's just my viewpoint and from what I've heard from people in my district. They're supportive and they understand everything that's happening in the law enforcement center, and I see the need inside of this facility to improve the workflow and the access to everybody, but that's my biggest sticking point right now.
You know, going by the number that's presented here, I mean, assuming that that's what it costs versus half or a third, based on this, it's based on the convenience of having it located in one place. By the time you add the cost of heat for another separate building and maintenance, the difference between what they quoted as a separate facility, that it doesn't justify having it separate. But to Steve's point, if you can build a pull shed for $300,000 or $400,000, okay, you can make a difference, but it's exactly that, a pull shed with a dirt floor.
Well, it could be twice the size for storage, 3 times the size of this storage facility. Yes, it wouldn't be as convenient, but then again, why are we putting heat into it, into a different structure? I don't see the need for that. A boat doesn't care if it's warm. As long as it's under a roof out of the sun, it's gonna take care of itself just fine.
And Commissioner, the heat that we're planning for that is gas-fired like unit heaters, just enough to really kind of temper the space, if you will, instead of it being freezing in there, it might be in the, on a day that's, 12 or 15 out, it might be in the 40s or low 30s or something in there. So it's not, when we say heated, it's more of a tempered space.
And I'm not worried about boats having to be warm in the wintertime, but we have emergency vehicles that we would need at any time. Whether it's our armored vehicle that we use for SWAT call-outs to our spare squads that we might need at any time. Currently they sit out when it's 20 below in a frozen snowbank and you hope that you can get them started. This takes that away. This makes them, far more.
Well, I realize that. I'm
That's-
fully aware of that.
That's the point of that,
But I haven't seen any comparison to if we extended that Sallyport and parked those emergency, your MRAP, your SWAT vehicle, your command trailer, command van, off to the side of that where the row is, where you're having all of the other items parked. If that was bumped out to that far with access through the through the Sally Port, those emergency vehicles would be in a heated space, protected, easily available, ready to roll. And I don't see an issue with that. I think the accommodation can be made there. It's just that the current configuration, I just can't support it.
The difference that you're saying you're not seeing is the 3,000 square feet. The preliminary projection was 11,000 square feet to add to the Sally Port and to add the garage space for the emergency vehicles that don't currently fit, provide the garage door openings that do that. When we added boats, ATVs, trailers, snowmobiles, et cetera, that required an additional 3,000 square feet. So that's the difference in the proposal, is that new space grew by 3,000 square feet. 3,000 square feet, based on the construction estimate of that precast concrete, was, I forget, I'd have to do the numbers, 475 a square foot.
Right in that ballpark.
And a heated space in a stick frame construction was estimated at 325,000 square feet. So if we do it in the same building, we don't need an additional mechanical system, we just asked about the north shop, having unit heaters to keep that space going. Whether we do or we don't, 3,000 square feet at $300,000+ or $300 per square foot, in today's day and age, I don't think you get a stick frame building with a foundation built for less than $300 a square foot.
Well, for me, the sheriff's department's ability or readiness to respond to emergency is the primary tipping point for me, is, you know, the necessity of having where to put this. So I would rely heavily on what the sheriff's department has to say on their ability to respond to emergencies, and the location and the type of building that this would be. So,
He's asking, so a snowmobile can be as much of an emergency response vehicle as the MRAP, as the ATVs can be, or the boats, any single one of them. They may all also be used for patrol, which is less of an issue, but they are also used in emergency response. So I think that's the question that.
Yeah, they are. I mean, our ATVs are, in the summertime, but in the wintertime when stuff is cold, snowmobiles, absolutely. And we have a couple of them, one of them is assigned to a deputy all the time, and the other one, different deputies stop and pick them up and go with them. So yeah, they definitely are. If we need something in a hurry, yeah, it's nice if, say it's on a trailer inside where it's not 10 below, absolutely, there's a huge benefit there.
and close to where the people would be responding
Exactly.
with the equipment, yep. Okay.
Board wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve this design.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Next item up is the construction manager. And Bruce, if you could just explain the process we went through and where we're at.
So we've found that probably over 90% of our projects are being done with construction managers. And as a matter of fact, I think some of the projects that were done here were utilized construction managers. So the delivery process is either a general contractor or a construction manager. And again, a construction manager, they're involved during the design of the project. They help to look at constructability, pricing, schedule. They add another layer of information that helps to qualify the project. When they go to bid the project, unlike a general contractor who's bidding some of their subs, the construction manager is actually bidding to a lot of subcontractors throughout. And so there's no favoritism towards one sub or the other. And we found that normally doing that route gets a lot more local contractors engaged and involved. So there's some benefits that way as well. Anyway, once we talked about the idea of utilizing a construction manager, the other thing I should mention, when you're trying to to operate in an existing building during construction. A construction manager is gonna have a person on site, basically 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever the construction hours are, they'll be on site. General contractor, their superintendent or their project manager might be on site a couple days a week, but they're not as reliable on a regular basis. So that coordination of being in the building helps a lot with the construction manager. Once we knew we were going that route, we basically put together a kind of a request for proposal. And we reached out to 4 construction management companies that have experience with county projects. And some of the things we looked at was understanding of local conditions and local construction, jail experience, and really just firms that we knew had the capability to do this. So we reached out to A&P Construction. We reached out to Construction Engineers, who's out of Grand Forks, I believe, Integrity Group out of Little Falls, and ICS, whose primary office is in Minneapolis, but their main office, the office they would be doing this project for, is out of here, out of Park Rapids. So we reached out to those 4 companies, had some requirements for their request for proposal. They submitted their qualifications. They also submitted their pricing. We got that information, shared it with Jeff and the sheriff, and made sure we internally kind of reviewed the information and evaluated the companies and the information they provided. From that, we interviewed 2 construction management companies, ICS and Integrity Group. And then I think out of those 2, there were some good differentiators. Both are very good companies. I think both could do a very good job. One of the big differentiators with Integrity Group specifically is that they've worked on the government center. They've done a lot of work here, so they had a lot of familiarity with the building. So during their interview, they actually pulled up drawings showing that they understood some of the mechanical, electrical systems, which is good when you're going to work with a partner and they already know some of the issues with the building, so they're helping to double check some of the things we're doing. So that was a good thing. The other thing that they did too is they had really thought through the phasing process of how we're gonna build some of these pieces while still maintaining access into the jail, what we're thinking about. So they had some good thoughts about that. And they also had a tremendous amount of jail experience. Currently, I think they're doing 6 or 8 facilities around the state, so they have a lot of jail experience. And they added to their team a retired jail inspector, Chris Toma, who used to work for Minnesota Department of Corrections, again, to help with some of the concerns for coordination with Minnesota DOC. On the other side, ICS was a very competent group. They came in and they had a good process, and they talked about their procedures and their process and how they manage a project, how they engage in the process and the design. So they had some strong points as well. So those were the 2 we interviewed.
So we went on a tour at the school a couple of weeks ago, and ICS is functioning in that construction manager role for that project. So that's exactly the type of thing that we're talking about here. When we're looking at these dollars, these are all baked into that total number already. That's part of the estimated plan. That's not above and beyond.
That was gonna be my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
I knew that was gonna be the question. So, as Bruce is mentioning here, there's about a 0.5% difference between these 2 numbers. And, for a total difference of $61,000, half of that is the amount of time they're allocating to have that retired DOC inspector on their staff to do that, which is something that ICS wasn't proposing. So now the distinction is really down to about 0.25% at $30,000 over the course of that project.
I'm just going to interject here for personal reasons. I'm not going to be part of the discussion or take part in the vote.
So I think at final, Bruce, you sent me an email where you were, after reviewing all of that, you were making a recommendation to the commissioners.
Yeah, let me pull that up if I could real quick, just so I have that. And thank you, I just found it. So a lot of it is exactly what I said. We talked about the companies. The 4 firms that submitted, the amounts they provided, A&P was at 1.3 million, almost 1,301,000. Category Group is about 899,820, construction engineers, 1,600,000 over that, and ICS was 838,625. So again, Contegrity and ICS were very comparable. When we went through and really looked at the differentiators, it was a little bit like I mentioned before. We felt that Contegrity Group had a little bit more familiarity. The individuals that interviewed that will be doing the project are actually owners with the company as well, so we felt there was a certain amount of kind of qualifications with them. And I think the experience that they bring in the jails is very important, because that's a critical area, and we can't, you know, it's one thing if you miss something on a drywall or some paint or things like this, but when it comes to coordination of jail project, you need to know what you're doing with that. And we just felt that that was very, very important. So on our basis, we felt the Contegrity Group had a little bit of an edge over ICS, but that was our opinion.
ICS has done jails.
So one of the people that interviewed with them used to work for Contegrity Group some years ago, and he had done some jails when he was with Contegrity. They are currently doing work for Coochin County and Anoka County, so they are doing some jail work.
Well, one question that I would have is, once the construction manager is hired, where does your role fit in? Because you're supplying the expertise on the design of a jail, so where do you fit in after?
So once they're hired, it's a three-legged stool, and we're all here to represent the county the best we can. You know, you have the owner and making sure the owner's issues are addressed. You have the construction manager and looking at constructability, schedule, and budget. And you have us with the design, and here we're proposing. So we'll still be developing documents. So we're in what's considered the design development phase, where we're adding a lot of detail to the level of documents and where cameras are and where the coordination needs to be. They'll be involved in those meetings. They'll be at the table with us in all these design meetings, and they'll be providing their input on that. When we finish up the design development documents, they'll go ahead and do an estimate and present that budget of where they think the project is and some possible value engineerings and some other options at that point in time. So they'll be hand in hand with us as we complete the documents. As we get ready to bid, they'll be working with us on the bidding documents that go out on the streets. So there's what's considered their pre-construction phase is that early front piece. Once it bids, then they go into construction. Really, at that point in time, we're still working together, but they're doing the construction management piece and coordinating all the subcontractors and coordinating pay applications and all that type material. We're still providing answers to questions that come up in the field. We're still out on site doing our inspections as well, because we have our responsibility to make sure that no matter what, whatever we design, whatever we show is being implemented properly. So it's kind of you're getting a little bit of benefit, I think, the way the construction management process works.
I followed up on references for both ICS and Contegrity. I was not able to reach anyone in Anoka County at the information that the contact information they provided in their memo. And I couldn't reach the person at Coochin and Steele County because they'd recently retired. And I was aware that they'd recently retired. But of course, I did have a conversation with Lance Bagstead here about where they're at with their process and what their experience with ICS has been. And he said they're on schedule and under budget. Everyone I talked to about Contegrity at Itasca County, at Douglas County, at Fillmore County said the same thing. They're very exceptionally happy with basically having that person there managing those costs and that project on behalf of the county. And we're managing the timeline appropriately, and we're managing the budget appropriately. So I have every confidence this is the right way to do this for us to get this project done because of the phasing, because of the complexity of it. And in my mind, it's a horse apiece. So if $60,000 is that 0.5% is the deciding factor for you, that's great. If you think that the recommendation of having Chris Toma and having additional jail experience is more important, in this case, you could make either choice and be okay. We just have to document why we made that decision.
I kind of look at, I think both are more than qualified to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we're going to go wrong whichever way we want. So now it's just a matter of, how you want to split the hairs and decide which one might be the best. I mentioned, I had notes that, just as Jeff did, that with a large project like District 309, ICS has been on time and on budget. And that's important because that can get very expensive if it goes longer or over budget. The other things I like about ICS is the emphasis of the use of local contractors. They really focus on trying to use local contractors probably more than some would. And that's a huge benefit to local taxpayers. And that's one of the big questions we always get as commissioners when big projects are done. Are you using local contractors? Is it gonna benefit our local community by moving the dollars around? And the local staff, make them very accessible, and that's because they live here, and they're also invested in Hubbard County. Well, Hubbard County because they live here. And then finally, it's the lowest qualified bid. And then looking at integrity for all the points you guys mentioned, those are all positives too. So when I split the hairs, what I hear from my constituents, I come down to keeping the dollars as local as possible.
I think
So I would support ICS.
that was my tipping point. I mean, they're both sound like they're very good. Both is jail experience, plus there's gonna be your input of jail experience, and then it's just, they're local people, and they've got more of an interest in it, to me.
And you say Contegrity did the remodel here on this building?
Yeah, I think they did the expansion
They
remodel.
did the 2014, 2015 here.
And they also, they did Heritage.
And we were on the planning commission. And so when you make the comment about drywall here and, little mistake here and there, I saw some of those, but of course they all got corrected.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the big thing to me. And on a project this size, or the project size of remodeling the government center here, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a mistake here or there.
Yep.
It's what happens when after that, how it's corrected.
And Commissioner, if I could, what I was trying to emphasize, which I didn't do too well, was that it's one thing on a office building type remodel to make a mistake or something you need to correct, but when it comes to a jail project, there's more consequences if suddenly you forget to put a rough in for a camera or something like that, because of the complexity of construction, that's all.
Especially if it's a concrete wall,
Yes,
something like that.
it becomes a little tougher, exactly.
And I wish I would have had a chance to speak to somebody at Anoka County relative to their projects, because aren't we excited that we're not doing a $260 million project?
Yes, we are.
So, but I think we would represent from the meeting that we had, and Corey, you were involved in those interviews as well, that either one is capable of doing this project. And the nice thing about construction managers, either one, because of the way they do the subs, would include local contractors. Your comment is well made and highlighted better by ICS in their materials. But that's one of the advantages of doing construction managers. They can break down, we're gonna do this piece and this piece and this piece, and when they need it. So for all the reasons that you have discussed and for everything we've seen, we're absolutely leaving it to you to make a recommendation on this. The recommendation from the architects is Contegrity because of their previous experience with our facilities and their jail experience, but we represent both can do this job. ICS has more local connections, yes, and their bid was lower.
Steve, do you have any comment you'd like to make?
No, I don't. I think they're both capable, obviously. I would like to see a little more experience on ICS's end in the jail realm of things, but it appears they're dabbling in it now. I think they're both totally capable of doing the job and doing quite well. So I guess, we just have to weigh all those last couple differences and go from there. I don't know which one to really propose over another right at this point.
Does anyone want to make a motion either? Go ahead.
If I just want to add one last piece. So I've worked with Contegrity Group, and I'm not pushing one way or the other. I just want to give you as much information as I can for your decision. But I've worked with Contegrity Group now for, it's probably going on 18, 19 years or whatever, since they actually started their company. the one thing I know, and I tried to be very impartial because I think both companies are very qualified. So I tried to make sure that I put the fact that I worked with them for years out of my head, and really look at the qualifications of the individuals presented and the information they present in their proposals. The one thing I know about Contegrity, which it has swayed me at times, they fight for the county's money like it's their own money. So when change orders come in, they're the first line of defense to say, no, we shouldn't be paying that, it's not qualified. And I think we asked that of both companies in the interview to make sure their numbers were solid. But that's my only other point is when I've dealt with Contegrity Group, they have not come back for additional money. I mean, we've had projects that went longer than anticipated, and they've stood their ground to support the county's goals. So I have a comfort level on that because I know that, again, budget's issue and we don't want to spend any more money than you need to. But that's my only thing is I know how much they fight for that money as if it's their own. So that's my only point.
And Lance would have said that same thing about ICS.
Any
Yeah.
good?
The only other piece that we haven't identified is Contegrity is family-owned. The owners are the ones making the bid and being there for the project. And ICS is a conglomeration. Yes, the office here is very local and local people. But when Contegrity, when the brothers that own that make a decision and say that we're not doing that, they don't have to ask anybody else because they're making the policy. So there's just, yes, ICS is local, the staff that's here, the recommendation from, Lance said the exact same thing, Bagstad from the school, that they treat that money as if it's their own. Again, I don't think you can make a bad choice.
I don't think you can also devalue the lowest bid. You know, and in the conversation, I kind of see that getting brushed aside. When you are the lowest bidder, you expect certain preference, I would say, because you're the lowest bidder. That's why you bid it the way you did.
Are you ready to make a motion?
I would move to approve ICS for the reasons I mentioned and the fact that they're the lowest bidder.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no one's opposed. Please note in the minutes, I did not vote. Thank you. ICS got the bid.
Thanks, folks. Have a good day, and I'm sure we'll be back soon.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, do you want to go back up to the employee development plan?
Yes, I do. We're just gonna cover the whole gamut here. So after the AMC Leadership Conference, and the presentation was brought forward by a Dare to Lead facilitator based off of Brene Brown's materials, I asked her what it would take to do something like that here, and she said that she was based out of Washington. It'd be better for me to contact somebody who's trained as a facilitator in the state of Minnesota. Turns out I knew somebody from that list who spends half of her time up on Bad Medicine Lake. So she's local. She's in the Twin Cities, she's at Bad Medicine Lake. And we talked about a couple of different options. The first option was to come here and sit and hold it, do exactly what we did at the leadership training with all of our staff for 2.5 days, which would have cost $25,000, $30,000. And nobody would have remembered it on Monday. But her other proposal was that she would train 3 members of our staff to be able to take this and implement that into the work that we're doing. And that was gonna be significantly lower. That would be about it would be $4,800 to spend 3 months training 3 people to integrate this language into the way we're advertising for positions, our performance reviews, our meetings with staff, our staff communications, build these components into the scheduled meetings that we have so that we're touching base on that. I think those that were there, remember that, okay, we're gonna take 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, we're gonna do this to reset, to get everybody in the same space before we have our meeting and to be more productive. So My proposal is that we would hire this trainer to train myself and Gina and Brian Ofus to do this over the next 3 months, and that we would be, as we're doing that, develop the employee development plan and the spots for those interventions that are identified in the strategic plan that we have. And this money comes out of my professional services budget. Hopefully, we don't have to hire any more lawyers this year.
Have you had discussions with those three as far as?
I have, yes. I sat down with Denise and Brian, and they're both excited to get started on it.
Okay.
So if we approve this today, we would start right after July 4th. Would be the plan.
So I've been on the board since 2016, and we've talked about employee training and development ever since I got on the board. So if we could actually get this off the ground and moving forward, I would be absolutely delighted. So could you explain, after the 3-month training, give us an example of what would happen, then what would you three do after that?
Yeah, well, as we're going through the training, I anticipate that we would identify those places within our structure as we're interviewing people, as we're doing our orientation for people. I mean, the things called out in our strategic plan say that we would have a 3-month, 6-month, and a 12-month check-in for people through orientation. We haven't done that. This gives us language to build those check-ins. And, you know, we've always been under the gun relative to implementing UKG, implementing the big project things. This is the time to just make time to do the employee development portion of it. So we would have an improved orientation. We would have improved follow-up with all of our staff. We would change the way we're doing performance reviews, and we would integrate some of this language and some of these programs into the regular scheduled meetings that we have for department heads, for supervisors, and at the department level. So that's, if you look at the strategic plan, those are the things already called for. These are the things we do during the course of that training. And then we would also be able to train some other people here.
It's the only way to reasonably sustain a program is you have to train trainers within your organization to do it.
Yeah, and one of the other things we've talked about is staff development for opportunity, and so we have, you know, staff moving from department to department, which is great, because it gives them a whole different skill set for.
Yep.
So would that be part of it, hopefully, or is that down the road where you would be training to backfill a position if someone moved? To advance, to
So
give people advanced
continuation of
opportunities?
operations
Yeah.
and succession planning
Yes.
are also elements of the strategic plan, and I'm guessing that we would have those conversations as we're doing this as well. But helping to identify,
I know you have to start somewhere.
yep,
Yes.
helping to identify, you know, you look around an organization, you have conversation like I do with the department heads about who's ready for more, who needs some we have those conversations. We just don't have the actual plan right now.
Yeah.
Those would not be specifically related to this, but those outcomes would be advanced when we get into the cultural, workplace culture piece.
This kind of thing will provide the training to your current leaders to make them, and the tools,
Yes.
to make them the best leaders they can be.
Yes.
And when you accomplish a certain level of that, all that other stuff that you're talking about with
Becomes
staff
easier.
getting organically starts to happen.
Yep.
Because that's what well-trained leaders do. They build capacity within their organizations, so there's a smooth transitions going on all the time. But we gotta do that first piece first. Get going on it. And their only way to sustain it is to figure out how to do it in-house.
Yeah, both Gina and Brian were very excited about this opportunity. That was 3 weeks ago, because when I had the conversation, it was the end of February was the conference. And then we just had to, by the time I got the proposal from her, I'm like, well, I still have to have the board approve this, so I can't give you a response till after that, but,
Well, all of us that attended the training thought it was very worthwhile. So I will move to approve this plan.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the two follow-up items.
Yep.
I'm gonna take the second one first,
Okay.
which is related to the library, needs. I got a call from Commissioner Kruger a couple of weeks ago, letting me know that the library was gonna be unavailable for some mechanical work, air handling work, for a 3 to 4 week period. And did the county have any space that might work for them to set up a temporary location? And gave me contact information, and I talked with Jody Schultz and Melissa Watley, and they came over last week and we looked at the space downstairs, the old economics where Mary was here when I first got here, and they agreed that that space would work well for them. They're going to be very limited in scope, right? But they're going to set up a couple of computers. They're actually talking about bringing a couple of shelves in for some books. They had originally asked about the bookmobile parking in the parking lot, but apparently they've found someplace else to put that, because now they don't want to do that. But they're asking for that, and their email says that they are requesting a key and the ability to lock those materials, that would be their space for that 3 to 4 week period. That they would have access to restroom and the space and all that. That we would work with them relative to furnishings. There's some stuff in there. Some of that is attorney's office, so it needs to be someplace else, but we would work that out. Permission to use the county lot for staff parking, permission to bring additional furniture and remove it at the end of the project, and permission to post signs so that people can find the library through that channel. So they probably put some up in the window out, facing out into the parking lot.
So you're talking the first floor or the basement?
First floor.
Okay.
First floor, right across from the auditor's office, in that corner space, 2 floors below my office. That they are providing staffing, that they are providing equipment and technology, that they are providing the furnishings that they need, the assurance that they'll secure the room, and all that. So basically, we haven't worked out the details. They don't have the schedule from their contractor yet. We assume it's going to be a 3 to 4 week period. I've talked to Bobby, I've talked to Kay. As long as we get this done before the primary in August, we're fine. So I'll communicate that to them, but they really thought it was going to be June, that they were going to be doing this work, May or June. So as long as it's done before we need that space for elections, we'll be all right.
So their hours of operation would be the same as the government
Actually, 9 to
facility?
3:30, so their hours would be
Okay.
within the hours
Oh,
that
within,
we're already
okay.
there. Yes, that's a good question. So
Great.
yes, thank you. Yep, 3 to 4 weeks, 9:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. So they would operate within the hours that we're already staffed.
Well, I don't see any reason if we can't make it fit into what's happening and they're willing to do the legwork, I guess, or the
They
heavy
were-
lifting.
Yeah, they were very excited about it. I have no reservations about having them over here for 3, 4 weeks.
It's nice to be able to do something for the library.
And they didn't, one thought that occurred to me is, the patrons for the library will have to go through security each time, and they're okay with that too, then.
They're aware of that. They had to go through security to meet me down there to look at it, so.
All right.
Do we need a motion? or-
I think it'd be great to have a motion to say, yes, I could
I'll
work
make the
with, I
motion.
could work with them to do that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And the last item I have is, we withheld that parcel up by Potlatch, so this is the one that was handed out to you. We withheld that parcel, from the sale because we wanted to make sure that it was developed in a way that would increase tax capacity, that it would, maximize job creation, that it would be an appropriate use in that space. And from that first week, I've had 2 parties calling me asking when is that, they understood why we withheld it, right? Because we don't want somebody buying that on the sale and just trying to flip it for twice as much a week later. But they're getting to the point where these people want to develop. So what we would have to do is issue an RFP so that we can get proposals, development proposals from them, and then we would have to review those and weigh those. This was copied from, I think, Wright County? No. Yeah, we looked at a bunch of them yesterday. So, Pope County, yep, Minnewaska. So the fourth page, proposals will be opened at the date and time determined by the sole discretion of the county. The selection of the winning proposal will be based on the following criteria: long-term market value and tax base for local improvements, job and wage creation, further the comprehensive plans for the county, project meets local ordinance permit requirements, recoup investments, we can remove demolition costs, that was from the one I took before, because they were taking down a building. Environmental impact on housing if applicable, developer history, ability to complete the project timely. So, basically what I'm asking is for the board to approve us to send this out pending my having Jonathan review this and review a generic development agreement that I got from Angel Wiesner at the City of Park Rapids relative to their industrial park. We've got people who want to buy this property, and if they want to buy and develop and they've got a plan that says within the next 24 months, we're going to build this much tax capacity, I think that was the whole point of taking it out of tax forfeited land, was get it turned back to the property tax rolls, so.
Do we wanna do this before we have an EDA in place?
No and yes. Because the two,
I shouldn't ask.
yeah, no, I
Concurrently.
I would rather that we not do it before we have the ED in place, but both of these, people who are approaching me are under the gun. One sold a business in Bemidji and they need to open their other space. And the other one is really antsy about it, and I'm guessing that if we do an RFP and I let both of them know that we're gonna get two proposals. And they're both already Hubbard County property owners. And they both are, in my mind, have proposed a project that would suit the area, that would increase net tax capacity, that would check all those boxes. The only thing I haven't seen is relative to if they would be creating any jobs.
The RFP would be open though to anyone?
Yes, yep, it would go up on the website, we would announce it in the local paper, and I just told both of them that when that RFP would go out, I would let them both know that it was open because they'd asked.
So what's the negative of doing this prior to forming an EDA?
The only thing I can think of is that we haven't identified what the EDA board would look like, and I think that Commissioner Karen's question might be relative to, wouldn't it be great if they had to make that decision and we didn't? And I'm kind of anticipating and reading between the lines, but,
It's not exactly that, but yeah.
okay, well, and I know I was
fine.
putting words
I
in
don't
your
mind.
mouth, but
I don't mind.
In one scenario, this could be the EDA board.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
thinking.
well, that's what I'm just
Yeah.
kinda trying to
Yeah.
approach
But
all
I think
avenues.
relative to this parcel, it would also be a good test. It's an ability for us to develop those materials. And it's that proof of concept that says we withheld this from the sale because we knew that there was a need for those parcels up there. Somebody's gonna build and somebody's gonna develop. It provides a little seed for, the next piece of the EDA. We're waiting to get the results from the survey work that we engaged in. That housing study is moving forward. I still anticipate putting parcels on the tax forfeited sale in September for industrial park and housing and asking those to be withheld. But I'm assuming that we'll have an EDA in place before September. So this one is just really relative to the email that I'm getting that says I'm running out of time. As a business owner, I need a place to be, and I said I would bring it to you. If you want to wait, that does make sense to me. But in this case, I think the interest is going to be localized. And if we're clear about those criteria,
We would be doing our job by getting things back on the tax rolls.
And would we still have I'm assuming then the board would have to approve the RFPs. And would we be able to reject them if that's the way we felt?
Yes, yep, as this is written, as I said, I would ask this pending Jonathan's review, because I haven't had an opportunity. We would have the ability to reject any or all RFPs or extend the deadline. The board would retain all rights to making sure that you believe that whichever proposal we choose is a good fit for the reasons, net tax capacity, job, fit for the area, et cetera.
Is there any consideration, having a township involved in any of this?
I think we really
That's
ought.
out of my district, but, you know, just.
Yeah, no, we've had conversations with the township telling them we were planning on doing things like this. I didn't think about that related to this parcel. I thought about it related to the others because it's right now next to their town hall and it would affect their road. This parcel is on County Road 45, so it wouldn't change anything. It's 17 acres and whoever develops there would be
Is there any
responsible
other
for it.
impact to the township besides the tax benefit of it all? Is there anything negative about it that?
I think you've got a lot of kind of industry in the area already, you know, and it's kind of, I think it's a good area for the county. You know, we've got the lakes area and we've got the tax forfeited kind of area in the middle of the county and up and towards me and towards you. But if we were gonna have, like I say, take advantage of Highway 2 and the railroad corridor, and I know that there's already been a couple of people interested in it in the past, because of its proximity to Potlatch. The only question I have, and I don't know if this would benefit us at all, is if somehow it got in the Bemidji newspaper also.
That's fair, yep.
Because I'm thinking if there's one person in Bemidji, and maybe there's more people that might have the same idea, and then maybe we would get more than a couple of bids.
And if we think of our development commissions as being the places that are referring people for economic development, you know, Greater Bemidji, Heartland Lakes, HRDC, it makes sense to send them a notice that, hey, this is up on the website if you know anybody that's interested in it. We
like
would
that.
want the best possible proposal there.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And I like, you know, I think in some of our discussions, we kind of identified that this is a preferred way to develop things where, you know, the government entity just kind of facilitates the process, but you get it into private hands as soon as
We're
soon
not
as you
actually
can,
developing.
and let the private, you know,
Yeah,
entities
exactly.
do the developing. But we're still in control somewhat because we get to dictate kind of the rules of what we want.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to become a developer.
Right.
In a sense, you know, or the county become realtors, you know, but like you say, if we can identify these areas and then get proposals where we have, it'd be great if we have multiple people looking at multiple parcels. I like that idea.
There are times where you might have to get involved because you need other tools to help spurn it along. But this seems pretty cut and dry to me in that we have an interest already.
Yeah.
That we're gonna get some proposals.
We will get proposals out of this if we do it short term. Now, ideally, if we create that industrial park and we have that there, we're basically gonna be negotiating parcels and prices and kind of have a minimum. And this identifies a minimum bid, which would be what the county has invested in it to this point, right? So the price they're willing to pay above the minimum bid, the tax capacity they're gonna create, the jobs that they're gonna create, the economic things should be relatively easy to compare. And this is also a situation where I can think, because it's a small community, people are gonna know people, and, you know, we might not have all 5 commissioners being able to vote on something like this. But that doesn't mean, again, the whole point of this was to take it out of tax forfeited land and put it into taxable land. And both people I've talked to had the idea of a proposal that makes a lot of sense to me.
I'll make a motion to approve, after,
After attorney review,
yeah,
yep.
attorney review, yes.
Okay, and Dave seconds. Okay, and is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session. Do you want to take a break? Sure. 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we back up?
We are back.
Okay, we're gonna do committee reports first. Who would like to start? You wanna go, Tom?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Well, we had the Parks Board meeting. Had, one of those items that I had on here is already talked about. That's the Benedict Lake Exchange, or Benedict Land Exchange. But the STS, Sentence to Serve, they did some cleanup work over at the maintenance shed of Deep Lake Park. We're still having issues with trespassing. Corey put up some signs. And there's some on the board who thought that, being public land, that without a board resolution, that it wouldn't be enforceable. So I asked Jonathan about it, and he said, we don't need the board resolution. You can enforce trespassing laws just on county land, just like you can on private land. So all we gotta do is catch those who are trespassing.
So are they doing harm, or are they doing?
Oh, yeah, they've been stealing like copper out of that lodge
so,
building
yeah,
and taking
okay.
other pieces, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So it'd be nice to put an end to that.
Surprising there's a gate there too, or?
Well, they've been breaking through the gate.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a gate locked up and everything.
High resolution trail cams right up there.
And I think if access from the back isn't blocked at all, so they can come in through the back if they're willing to take the risk.
If they know,
And those people who are doing it are probably got the same attitude that maybe a couple on the board thought, well, this is public land, I can go on there anytime. But no, you can enforce trespass laws on public land. Just like we do security coming in the building here. I mean, a
So
person just can't.
did your board make a decision about putting up trail cameras or anything?
Yeah,
or-
yeah, they're going to be doing cameras.
Okay.
Probably just put one right on the gate where they can see it, and that'll put an end to it.
Yeah,
Or right next to the copper pipe they're
I
stealing?
mean, they'll drive right in with their car and see it. Now you got the license plate.
yeah.
Unless they steal
Don't
it.
think they'll be going in at that point.
they also make,
Sneak around some other way.
they do make trail cameras and actually have some that work on cell phones. So it's like a security camera where you get notification when,
Yeah, so it's
when the motion
instant.
is tripped.
Oh, yeah.
And they've actually, they used to be over $1,000, but now they're under $100.
Yeah, because they could just take the camera and then you wouldn't have any evidence, but you would if it was forwarded to a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had the whole video and everything already down there. Even they took it, it's already recorded on your cell phone. And then at Ferris Park, well, this is probably where your son was involved. They got the Frisbee course laid out there. The Pickleball Club wants to install an AED near the courts. It'll be at their expense. And then I had a Crow Wing, One Watershed, One Plan meeting. We did have a quorum finally, and so we were able to pass some things. And one of those things we voted on was to structure the watershed within the collaboration method instead of forming a independent entity. And then we had a special meeting for the Kitchigami Regional Library. At a previous regular board meeting, we had voted to approve a delivery vehicle for them to go and go get bids and come back at the May meeting for approval of the bids. But the vehicle broke down in the meantime, so they had to get something going. And any purchase like that has to be approved by the board, so we had to call a special meeting for that. So we took care of that issue. And that's about all I got.
Okay.
Let's see, had a Headwaters Regional Development Commission meeting. One of the items on the agenda was Regional Food Hub update. HRDC was awarded a 5-year United States Department of Agricultural grant to focus on local food systems, addressing supply chain issues and challenges for small businesses within our region. Staff has been reaching out to local partners for food producers to build our inventory for local food systems. And they obviously took the time to kind of go over that with us. And I was trying to remember where they're doing it in Hubbard County. I'm assuming it's got to be the food shelf here in Park Rapids. Then we also had a presentation from Amber Lynn. She's a local business.
I got a question. So did they have any discussion about doing a booth at, like the local Saturday fair? And then giving out cards or something to take to get free
They did talk about like you say, the food, it's not.
Farmers market.
Farmers market, there you go.
Yeah.
They said that the Park Rapids and Hubbard County Farmers Market is a lot bigger and better than the one in Beltrami County and one in Bemidji.
Okay.
And,
Because there's some places now that are giving out cards worth X amount of dollars that they can then take and use at the vendor at the food, at the market.
yeah, and I don't think they covered that at all, but I have heard of that
Okay.
before. Then
Yeah,
we-
they don't do that here, because I checked, my hubby was interested, and there's not a plan in place right now for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be a good idea, though.
Yeah.
We had a guest presentation, Amber Lynn. She has a local restaurant where she works with local farmers and producers and processors. Like I say, she's a local restaurant owner, so a lot of her menu is made up from items that she herself has grown or local producers have grown. She talked about the issues she had with processing meat, but now she does have a meat processor that takes care of all of her, chickens, hogs, beef, stuff like that. And the photos in that she was showing, I was really hungry. By the time she was done, I was ready to go to a restaurant right at that point. But like I say, those meetings, it gets to be like 9, 10 o'clock before we're done. And we also had a presentation on placemaking opportunities. HRDC staff has been gearing up for the next placemaking grant received through the Department of Justice starting in June. I know that they've been looking at doing that here in Hubbard County, Park Rapids specifically. I know that in Bemidji, they do it, we're doing it at the Regency motels, or, excuse me, Regency apartments. No, that's not the name of them. Now, I can't remember the name of the apartments there in Bemidji where they were doing it. But they're talking about doing that here, perhaps at Regency and perhaps at the Meadows apartments. And it's basically where they want to create more of a sense of community in those areas. And it seems to help, where you get to know your neighbor type of a thing. And then, of course, what we'll be starting to do here soon, I'm sure, is budget discussions. And we're looking pretty good. I've gotten a lot of grants this year for different projects, so we're looking good there. Every year, HRDC, at their annual meeting, we go to one of the different counties. This year, it's Hubbard County's turn. I'm hoping that perhaps you guys can have some suggestions for, I don't know if you want to call them attractions, but like last year when we went up to Lake of the Woods, they went by like a distiller, the distillery that HRDC had helped finance and help them get that going. We also looked at some of the housing projects that they had done in Lake of the Woods County and stuff like that. I know some of the stuff that HRDC has done here, like in Park Rapids, I know there was a couple houses that they finished a couple of years ago. I think they're talking about having the meal, like I say, we're just in the planning stages. They were talking about maybe having the meal at Clancy's. I know that HRDC had helped them with, I believe it was financing and stuff like that. I know Black Swan is one that HRDC has also helped. I talked about the new bridge, or the box culvert that goes under Highway 71 for the bike trail. I said we could stop and look at that, but I don't know if we want to be stopping a bus on along Highway 71. That's something, though, of course, is be like a 5-year rotation. Perhaps that trail is done, or at least a good portion of it from Itasca. Because I would like to do something like that too as a group, bike ride or whatever. Just not in July or August. The horse flies would be nuts. And let's see, and this, like I say, I think I've mentioned this before, the Safe Routes to School, LaPorte School District, the city of LaPorte got that grant, and they're starting to work on that plan there. Had a North Country Community Health Services meeting. Let's see, there again, we go over the financials, went over the audit, which came in really good. We reviewed new grant opportunities and applications, gave them the okay to apply for those grants. We have one lady, Sharon, she's retiring, this is her last meeting. And that was pretty much it. Let's see my notes here. They've got public funding, it was one of the grants for STDs to look at. Let's see. And then we're looking at updating the strategic plan for the, or the Minnesota Department of Health is updating the strategic plan, and I'll have more on that at another time. Let's see, they talked about, of course, April, that was last month, was Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And then, of course, they went through some of the, where some of the money's being spent. They got a little grid chart here for that. And then I also had Northwest Minnesota Juvenile Center meeting. That was mostly, that was the executive board. So we talked about, there again, the budget, which is kind of a catch-22 there, where you have, when you have less kids in the programs, that's kind of good because maybe there's less juvenile delinquency, but then there's also less income. But we're doing fine. Summer's coming, and the numbers a lot of times will go up at that period. And of course, part of it too was the superintendent, Mindy O'Brien, with her review, like we're gonna be doing today with Jeff. And of course, so that's all the information I can't disclose. So I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Steve?
Well, I had the fair board, really nothing new, they're just moving forward toward the fair. There wasn't anything too exciting, I guess, as far as I remember.
Yeah, just we weren't able to fill the extension
Yeah.
educator position.
Yeah, that was, in extension, they weren't able to fill the educator, or the coordinator, I guess is what the title is. The office assistant, or office support staff, that was hired and filled. I don't know if she's local or not. Her last name is Harsha, so.
She had been involved with the fair and stuff
Okay,
before
right.
too, so that'll
Yeah.
help.
But it was, at extension, it was interesting to see the bots, the demonstration that they did. The kids were so into it,
Yeah.
programming a little rolling ball, using coding and an iPad and making it run a course and do things. It was, they were really into it. But the typical shy kid doesn't, really show it, they wanna prove it, so that was interesting, that was good. And really, that's all I had.
Yeah, and then outside of what Steve mentioned there, they'll fill with an interim position there, and sometime in the near future, we'll do the process again, try and fill it. Probably early fall, I think it probably sounds like that's kind of their normal timeline, but, yeah, unfortunate we couldn't fill it, but
I asked Joyce the same thing, but I was wondering why, if you have a strong second place person, why you couldn't go to that, or how,
well, we don't ultimately get to choose that.
yeah.
That's the regional director for
University?
the university that picks that. We just pay the bill.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, we pay
Yeah.
the bill, why can't have more say in,
Oh, yeah, I've got, a little bit of frustrations with it, but let the process play out, I guess. For whatever reason, the top choice we had, we couldn't get, and, yeah, there were concerns, I guess, maybe with some of the others, but, yeah, ultimately it was their choice. It's their employee, so. All right, and then, Heritage Board, currently the Manors, 19 out of 26, cottages have 18 out of 18 filled, and Heritage Living Center, census was 38, This was as of April 23rd. Other things going on, we're waiting for flooring to be installed in the cottages. The manor roof project is going on right now, needed a new roof. Air conditioner for the laundry room.
Is that still not in?
It was not at the time. I can't remember exactly what
We've been waiting since last summer.
when they dug into it a little more, because we let the bid out.
Yep.
And then when they dug into it a little more, there were a couple problems.
Yep.
So we redid it. And so I think it's set now.
Okay. Oh, so they have to rebid it again?
Well, one of the bids was gonna, use the existing up on the roof and stuff, and
Okay.
we ended up having to rebid just mini split systems.
Okay.
And so those came in and it worked out the same way, basically. Let's see. Nothing new on the ERC tax credit yet. As far as cash flow for the month of March, Heritage Manor had a positive 30,624. Cottages had a positive 15,013. Heritage Living Center a positive 67,644. Total combined, that's 113,281. And then I think that was a positive net income result then. Let me check that. Find the right sheet here for you. Month of March, the net operating income looks like it was 67,000. Oh, here we go. 20,539. For the year, we are at a positive net income of 68,863 and a positive EBITDA of 616,815. So
Which one is the senior apartments that can rent? Is that cottages?
the manor,
The manor, okay.
yeah, it's actually,
About the assisted living
it's called the,
No, just a senior.
Oh, the senior, okay.
yeah, the manor. Cottages are the memory care.
Is manor full?
No, but we are real close now to getting, what do they call it? Where we can take a couple
Okay.
qualified people in,
yeah,
fill
for
a couple
Medicare?
more rooms,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a waiting list? Do you know?
Yes and no,
Okay. I just have an elderly,
elderly waiver is what they call it.
I have an elderly relative who's talking about moving here and won't have any housing, so she's just looking into alternatives.
There's single apartments available yet,
Okay.
and they've been freshly remodeled. If we would do the elderly waiver, we'll probably do a couple of them, which will fill a couple more, which will still leave 2 to 4 open.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I spoke with somebody yesterday whose mother lives there, and there's so much going on now.
Yeah.
From the apartments, they're having trouble visiting her, which they're thrilled about. But anyway, she said it's developed into just a wonderful community, so.
And the manor is actually making a net income every month now, and that was kind of our last one that was kind of problematic for a while. So, turned around pretty good.
At the managers meeting, Brian had someone come from United Way in Bemidji. Brian and his wife are really involved in the United Way there, and Brian would like to get one started in Hubbard County at the government center. Gina talked about how there's already a way people can just have money taken out of their checks automatically, and any of the money that is taken out would be spent here. And so, in Hubbard County, United Way got grant funding this last year. They gave money to help support for the ARCC Emergency Shelter, Family Safety Network, Hubbard County DAC, Hubbard County Prevention Coalition, Kinship, Park Rapids Living at Home, North Country Food Bank, Park Rapids Armory and Event Center, and Support Within Reach. So, and then they also helped with a backpack at LaPorte schools. So I'm thinking Jeff will hear more about this
Yeah,
coming down the pipe?
yeah, we're not gonna have personnel committee meeting today, but I would imagine we'd bring it up at personnel next month and
Okay.
talk about the payroll withholding policy generally.
Okay,
I mentioned
go ahead.
a couple meetings back, a couple manager meetings back, and that topic was brought up, and I mentioned a previous employer that I had, when there was 100% participation, within our unit, they put on a dinner for us. So you may have some kind of reward if you get 100%
Oh.
participation.
We're looking to tie it to wellness and other employee initiatives, right? I mean, we wouldn't just do payroll deduction and provide that service unless there was something to be gained from our staff. And the engagement portion that she talked about last week, I think, is useful.
Then I was the only one on, I think, yesterday at MRC from Hubbard County, at least when they took roll, I was. So they had two senators talking, both said, and AMC and MRC, that this has probably been the most frustrating and exhausting legislative session ever. Nobody's working together, tempers have been very high. People that were friends last year aren't speaking to each other this year, and so they talked about how they're gonna just need, AMC said they're gonna need some downtime just for their staff to just re-energize, cause it's been so exhausting. There's a $300 million, addition to the bonding bill that's been added in for local projects, but that would be divided amongst all the counties. They need 7 Republicans to vote to get the bonding bill to pass, and so the bonding bill is gonna be used as leverage for bills that are attached that people don't want. Today's the hearing for Senator Nicole Mitchell. The Republicans are asking her to resign, and the Democrats wanna keep her on, because they need the vote. This is what I asked Bruce about. So there's a bill for, this was for school materials. Okay, so there was a double sales tax. The schools they had to pay sales tax twice, and so there's a bill entered that would refund the schools for the sales tax that they had to pay that they weren't supposed to. So that's expected to pass. Someone's got the prevailing wage. They made an amendment to apply only to the 7 metro counties instead of the whole state. So one of the commissioners from Clay County gave the example that they received a grant to do broadband somewhere in Clay County. She didn't say where it was, but they figured it out. It's $35,000 per household to get the broadband there. And then she said if you tack prevailing wage over and above that. So they had a discussion on that. The commissioner from Redwood asked Senator Weber to look into this. Currently, Redwood's got land. He didn't say what kind of land. I think it was, yeah, I do think it was farmland. It's being valued at $18,000 an acre. And he said, nobody in Redwood has ever sold farmland for $18,000 an acre. So will you please look into this and see what you can do with the Department of Revenue? They don't think the gun control is gonna be brought forward to a vote because the people in favor of gun control are 2 votes short. Let's see, SCORE is a big win. E-waste is a no this year. They gave an example of if we bought a phone for $1,000, if the bill passed as is, there would be an additional $30 put on the $1,000 to pay for the tax for one phone.
Yeah, that would be pretty tough, because it was a 3 or 3.5% sales tax
Yeah.
on every piece of electronics sold.
Plus, it was only in the state of Minnesota, so it really complicated things. The plastic wrap bill is still in. The drainage bill doesn't include the drainage portal, which was a really positive thing, because that means that people living in New York couldn't have a say over what you were doing. The egg bill, Steve Green was trying to move forward an egg bill, moving it forward to manage the herd. That hasn't gotten any traction. Instead, they're trying to pay damages from elk to farmers, but it was only up to $500, and so it's still considered a disaster. they're trying to up the money for the EMS. And then we had quite a discussion on the White Earth proposal, and even though it's considered dead, everybody there said we have to watch, because you never know if it's gonna be pushed in at the end. So one of the commissioners that talks farms in Monoman, and he talked about how the water rights now, even off the reservation, the tribe is trying to manage that, and RDO has just filed a lawsuit against them on that. And so have some of the farmers that are up there. And then they talked about, the long-term plan about if White Earth passes, how then they're gonna go after all county land and then go, you go the whole gamut of that. So our discussion led, so this is the end of the legislative session, which we'll discuss at the next meeting in 2 weeks. But then we'll start looking for priorities next year. And one of the priorities will be to address anything like this happening, so we can be proactive and have several counties on board together with that. So at the end, the chair, Luke, talked about how some of the policies haven't even been looked at since the 1990s, and so there's 5 different areas. We're gonna look at all the policies. There's environmental, which included parks, government and taxes, public health and human services, public safety and transportation. So I'm gonna be one of those, on the government and taxes to look at policy, general government and taxes. And I'm gonna be tapping into you, Jeff, when we have the discussion, possibly having you join us because of the wealth of information you gave us just about property taxes. Our meeting actually got done early. That's what I have. So, meetings to note, I will be going to the roundtable discussions. I'm not going there, I don't plan to say anything, I'm just gonna go to listen. I don't know if any of the rest of you are going. Tom, you're going, are you
I'm
going to both?
planning on going.
Are you both going to both of them?
I'm gonna,
No, just the first one, 8:30.
Okay, and are you going?
yeah, I'm gonna go to the later one on,
Okay, on the
5:30 to
5:30 to 7?
yeah.
Is that when you're going
That's
to?
when I'll go 5:30 to 7.
Okay, so Tom and I will go in the morning. Are you going to any of them?
I'm going in the morning.
Okay, all right. So there'll be more than 2 there, but it won't be a problem.
I kind of felt in my district, don't have a lot of hotels or resorts,
Yep,
but we do have a lot of short-term rentals and
Okay.
and bed and breakfasts, B&Bs.
well, that'll be great that we're all planning to attend,
Yeah.
okay? And then Jeff, is anybody attending the webinar? Dave and I, is anybody else attending Home Run Leadership? Tom, you're going too? So 3 of us will be there for that, okay?
And I have 2 other
Okay.
meetings. This is a rate increase notice to counties and municipalities from Minnesota Power. I can
yeah,
make
we
a
talked
copy.
about
I don't know if you've got those, but,
MRC talked about that, yep.
In the paper too.
so the public hearings are scheduled, they're in the paper, if you.
Just keeps going.
And then the other one is related to this, Minnesota Department of Revenue proposal relative to utility pipeline and railroad, operating property taxes. This is the 3rd time they've rescheduled their meetings that they're having, but, virtual public meeting on May 28th, an in-person meeting in Aiken, and I'm gonna go to that on May 29th, in St. Paul on May 30th, and a virtual meeting on June 4th, so.
And Kittson County said yesterday that 40% of their utilities, or 40% of their levy comes from utilities.
Yep.
So the May 28th is a virtual one?
I can forward this.
Yeah, would
I
you
can
forward
this.
that?
I can forward this email to all of you.
Okay,
And one other meeting I just noticed, the Hubbard Township meeting, May 20th,
Yep, May 20th at White Oak,
White Oak. Yep.
the Hubbard County
Okay.
Township Association. I was planning on going to that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can go to, it's on my calendar.
well, that's a busy day, okay. White Oak. At 7, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, is there anything else? Otherwise, we will have a motion to go into closed session.
4.
Jeff's evaluation.
Yeah, I'll move.
Okay, Dave moves.
I'll second.
Ted, you second? Okay. We will go into closed session. I'm gonna run and hopefully get my computer. I was with a commissioner on this weekend, and he showed me a video from Kitson County, which I'm trying to get from him. Somebody was chopping corn, and as he got towards the end of the field, and the field came this big, wild pigs running out, I mean, there must have been at least 50.
Wow.
Yeah, so wasn't it an MRC they were talking about, the wild pigs were moving down from Canada?
Oh, my.
Yep,
They can be hard to get rid of.
Time to buy more ammo.
That's what I've been.
yeah, we do. Who wants, I'll make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Dave seconds, okay.